Good morning and welcome to the North Dakota Bureau of Criminal Investigations Non-Criminal Justice Criminal History Record Agency Training. Thank you all for making this a priority and joining us today. My name is Rebecca Dubin and I am the Criminal History Records Supervisor with BCI. We're coming to you from the BCI conference room in Bismarck. Last I checked, we had approximately 70, looks like 67 other attendees joining us online. Just a few housekeeping items before we begin. So we're going to be throwing a lot of information at you today. So we're going to make sure to be giving you multiple breaks to get up, stretch. If you have questions, feel free to ask them in the chat or come off mute. We're more than happy to answer anything any questions you may have. Renee Bergstrom, one of our criminal history records specialists, will be monitoring the chat. So please feel free to raise your hand or throw a message in the chat box, and we will get back to you. We will ask the question so everybody can hear, and then respond. Let's see. Everybody should have the ability to speak. So if you do have a question, feel free to take yourself off mute, but please remember to mute yourself afterwards so that we don't distract others. And then if at any time you do have technical difficulties, we ask that, lately that's just us. This happened last week too. We even did some testing, but anyway, but if you do have technical difficulties, we just ask that you disconnect and try logging back onto the Teams meeting. If you continue to have problems, I recommend just reaching out to your IT personnel. We will be recording this training and then providing it at a later date. Hopefully, I'm thinking end of this week, along with the presentation. We will also be providing the updated Non-Criminal Justice Agency Criminal History Record Manual. And then finally, our goal is to have you out of here on or before noon. So let's get moving. All right, a little bit about me. My name is, as I said, is Rebecca Dubin. I've been with the Bureau for 1.5 years now. Prior to that, I spent 22 years working primarily in state government with roles at Career and Technical Education, the North Dakota University System, and the Department of Public Instruction. I also spent 6 years working at the North Dakota School Boards Association as the Director of Policy Services. Most of my career has been rooted in education, so coming to the criminal justice world was completely new, but it has been a wonderful experience. In addition to hearing from me today, you will also hear from a couple other BCI staff members. First, we'll hear from Jeannie Better, who was our Information Security Officer in the Compliance Division. Today, she ensures both our office and external agencies handling fingerprint-based record checks remain in compliance with state and federal laws. She'll be leading the section on compliance, security, and auditing in today's training. We will also be joined by Paul Geisberg later in the presentation, who recently stepped into a new role as the Criminal Intelligence Analyst. Yes. Paul will wrap up the session by walking us through the fingerprinting process, whether it's done via inked or live scan.
Are those acting up too?
No, but
Oh, okay.
I'm thinking they've never.
And then if your agency doesn't handle fingerprints or works with a third-party vendor, you're welcome to leave at that point, but though we encourage you to stay.
And then we replace that one.
Okay.
Do you want to
So
see
I think
those?
we've done kind of as it's
Somebody,
gone.
sounds like you are unmuted. Would you please mute yourself?
We've got
Thank
that
you.
match go down, like where they have that.
Probably. Yeah, because those would have been put in when it was built,
Yeah.
and that was the beginning when Calvin.
Anyway,
And I don't
since
know
the
how long-
training was moved on to
mine has been
online,
my
if
house for
you
15
require
years.
instruction
Like, I
on
didn't
how to
know they went
fingerprint,
back.
please contact our
So-
office and we would be happy to get something set up with your
Yeah,
agency or
I
school.
think it was last summer, the summer before, Russell brought one in, and he couldn't find, he had gone everywhere.
I got it muted. All right, Today we are joined by one of our 3 BCI chief agents, Steve Harstead. Steve oversees several key units at BCI, including our criminal history records section and the ABIS unit, which handles our fingerprint processing. We appreciate him taking the time to join us today and kick things off to offer us a brief welcome. Thank you, Steve, for being here, and I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you. Again, Steve Harstead with BCI. Been with BCI for 20 years now. And not until I got into this role as chief agent did I take the time probably to get as far into criminal records as we have here now. So, but you quickly realize that the criminal records portion of what happens here at BCI is really the bedrock that we work on. So super important. Super happy to have everybody here. We've had great participation through these 2 trainings. It's really important work. We want to make sure that the records are correct, and we also want to make sure that they're handled properly when you guys receive those and things like that. So we appreciate the fact that you are here to participate and learn and get this process correct. The knowledge that you have here, our records department is extremely knowledgeable about this, have a lot of experience doing this, and we want to make sure that we can relay that information properly to you. So unfortunately, this is virtual only today. We got rescheduled a little bit, but we'll do the best we can with the technology challenges that we always seem to have, and we'll get through it. But appreciate everybody being here. Please participate. Please ask your questions. We don't want you to walk away from this having any questions. We want you to be able to reach out at any time. And if future questions come up, you'll have somebody to contact, and you'll have some of that personal knowledge. So again, thanks everybody for being here, and hopefully we'll get you back on time a little bit, because I'll be brief. Thanks.
Thank you, Steve.
Thanks, Steve.
All right. Got it. All right. So who's attending today? So this group represents a diverse range of organizations across the state authorized to conduct fingerprint-based record checks, including state agencies and licensing boards, public schools, school districts, special education units, career and technical education centers, the School for the Blind, the School for the Deaf, Center for Distance Education, and then also state colleges and universities. Altogether, BCI supports nearly 300 agencies and entities across the state each year. This is in addition to all the public requests we receive on a daily basis. So let's take a moment and think about why we are here. Criminal history records may seem routine, but they play a crucial role in protecting vulnerable populations, ensuring safety in your schools and communities, securing sensitive positions and information, and maintaining public trust. Over the course of the morning, we'll equip you with everything you need to know. So what forms to submit and how, what the response means, what your agency needs to do before and after the results come in, how to remain in compliance with laws and protect criminal history information, and then of course the basics of fingerprinting. By the end of today's session, you'll not only understand the CHR process better, but you'll be more confident in your role as a gatekeeper in this critical information. So let's dive in. So throughout the presentation, we'll be referring to the Non-Criminal Justice CHR Training Manual and other resources. These resources will help equip you with the necessary information to ensure a smooth criminal history record check process. We're working on updating the manual. As I said earlier, we will email the updated version to you later in the week, and it should be available on the CJIS Launchpad by the end of this week as well. So give me a thumbs up if you are familiar with and actively use the CJIS Launchpad. So for clarification, CJIS stands for Criminal Justice Information System. For those of you who aren't familiar with the CJIS Launchpad, to access it, simply go to the web address listed on the slide. If on the CJIS Launchpad, there are so many valuable resources for the non-criminal justice agencies. These resources include audit guidance and documentation, criminal justice training manuals, forms, and reference materials that we will talk about later in the presentation. The CJIS privacy and security certification link that's on. Okay. And then finally, once it's uploaded, this is where we will have the presentation and from today's training and the recording. As I stated, we will be referring to several of these resources throughout the training, so we highly recommend bookmarking the page for access later. If there's anything you would like to see on the CJIS Launchpad, please reach out to Jeannie or I, and we will discuss and hopefully be able to get it uploaded to the Launchpad. So I'm a strong believer in continuous growth and learning. So just because we've done something one way for years doesn't necessarily mean it's the most efficient or correct. One question I constantly ask myself is, how can we improve the CHR process, make it more efficient, more accurate, and then ultimately better for everyone involved? That includes not only for our partner agencies and the public, but also our BCI staff. That's one of the key reasons we brought you all together today. We want to ensure you have the tools, the knowledge, and guidance to do things correctly and confidently. But today isn't just about us sharing information with you. As Steve said, we want to hear from you, your questions, your concerns, the things that are working well in your agency. Your feedback and experiences can help others in this room as well. So throughout the day, please don't hesitate to stop any one of us if you need clarification or have a helpful tip to share. We want this to be a relaxed, interactive session, not just a one-way presentation. Your participation, excuse me, my mouth is getting tongue-tied. Your participation is what makes this valuable for everyone. All right, so first we need to know what allows the FBI and BCI to share this identifying information. The authority for receiving state and federal record checks can be found in Public Law 92-544, which allows the FBI to exchange identification records with BCI for purposes of licensing and employment when authorized by state statute. The state statute that allows BCI to provide each agency, official, or entity listed is North Dakota Century Code 126024. Under subsection 2 of 126024, agencies are authorized to request a state and federal criminal history record check for the specific purpose outlined in law. This purpose should be found in 126024 as well as your agency's specific section of code. So one acronym you'll hear frequently throughout the day is CRI, which stands for Criminal History Record Check Information. This refers specifically to the actual criminal history record results obtained for the individual on whom you're requesting a record check. In short, CRI is the results. The CHR results, to be more specific. It's important to note that CRI is not the same as the criminal history record check request forms, the application materials, or the licensing packets that you submit to our office. This sensitive data is protected under PII, or personally identifiable information regulations, as well as other applicable privacy rules. So please be sure to review your local and state policies to better understand what information can be shared and with whom to ensure compliance. So a background check versus a criminal history record check. What is a background check? Background checks are conducted to help verify an individual is who they say they are. These checks can include a wide range of information depending on the purpose of the inquiry and the agency conducting it. Background checks must be used to gather details about the applicant, the employee, or licensee. The specific areas reviewed can vary from one organization to another. Common areas include personal history, employment, verification, criminal records, education, and more. So it's important to understand that background checks and criminal history record checks are not the same. A background check is more of a broad term that can include various types of information such as contact and personal details. This can include date of birth, marital status, and occupation. It can also include property ownership and financial history, as well as motor vehicle records and traffic citations. And then potentially it could also include a criminal history record. So a criminal history record check, on the other hand, is a specific type of background check that focuses solely on an individual's criminal history record. A criminal history record is a search of confidential law enforcement databases and then sometimes fingerprints. CRI also includes identification data such as a primary name, aliases, date of birth, social security number, and then addresses during the time of arrest. So this information helps us to confirm and positively match an individual. In North Dakota, for a criminal record to appear on a state's central or in a state central repository, the individual must have been arrested and fingerprinted. If no fingerprints are taken, there will be no corresponding record in our system. So the state criminal history record also includes data on individuals listed in the sex offender registry or the North Dakota Offenders Against Children registry. If the subject of a request is found on either of these registries, a notification letter will be included in the criminal history record response. So please note that federal and tribal charges, along with juvenile records, are not included in the state criminal history record. So here is a further breakdown of what is and not on a criminal history record. We will talk more about this later in the presentation. So I'm going to turn it over to Jeannie Vetter now, so she can talk to you more about the compliance requirements for CRI.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so to even begin getting CRI, BCI needs to have a certain documents and agreements to make sure that everything's in order. The first thing is we need a signed agency user agreement, which will designate the NAC. We'll go more into these each individually as we go a little further, but I need a personnel list stating who is authorized to view and discuss the CRI. All of these people need to have a signed statement of misuse. And there are 2 different trainings that need to be done. Internal trainings. This training that we're doing is just so that you understand. And then there's a CJIS online security and awareness training that needs to be done. So this is the user agreement. The user agreement is the FBI's requirement stating that we as BCI have an agreement to give you criminal history results, and you guys agree to do things the way that they're supposed to be done. On this agreement, the top portion states who the NAC is. That's going to be the main agency contact, and going to be our main liaison between us and your agency or school. The lower section is where the authority is placed. I don't believe anybody in here doesn't already have, is anybody new in here, Rebecca, that wouldn't already have this completed?
Emergency services is the newest one.
Oh, okay, so that would be like, if emergency services is on here, then we would still need that user agreement, but I think everybody else pretty much participating in this has this. And you guys should have a copy of this. In that lower portion, it states the public law 92544, North Dakota Century Code 126024, and then your subsection, and then who you're allowed to run them on.
So do you want to give some examples, Jeannie, of
Yep, I was
who, oh, sorry,
just kidding.
sorry, sorry.
So in that, it's basically what's known as your population, who you can run them on. Schools can run them on, employees, but it's a specific type of employee. So in that box, we would say employment on here, such as teachers, bus drivers, custodians, nursing would say registered nurse, or what's another type of nurse? I guess I don't, there's other types of nurses. Anyway, I know I can't think of it. NPA, whatever. LPN. So those are the things that need to be specific in that area. And then it goes on the fingerprint card as well. Basically, everything in here goes in the reason fingerprinted box on the fingerprint cards, which will be covered later in the presentation. If you do need a new user agreement, which I do need new user agreements, if for some reason you go back to the legislature and change your population. So if you are a licensing agent and you add a different type of license that would vary between, then I would need a new user agreement, because that would be a new population that you would be running criminal histories on, and we need the record of that agreement going again. If you do need one, you can email it to BCI audits, you can fax it, mail it, drop it off. Oh, question. What is your question?
Hi, I work in the medical marijuana division, and starting August 1st, we're going to be accepting non-resident applications. But we're still gonna, all the fingerprint cards, if they are gonna get approved, I guess they're gonna be designated caregivers from North Dakota. We wouldn't need any sort of different documentation for that, would we? Because the caregivers would still be from North Dakota.
Did you go to the legislature and change how your wording is on 126024?
I'd have to ask my division director.
Okay,
about
so
that.
if that changed in legislation, then I might need, we'll have to look into that. But on some medical marijuana, they're doing it on some other people.
Oh, yes, that was one that was recently on hold for a long time, and it was approved, if that's what she's referring to.
Well, she's wondering if they need a new user agreement because,
I think.
and I guess I haven't received that one.
We'll have to look into it.
Yeah, well, I'll have to look into that. I'll have to reread. That's, we'll get back to you. Right.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Oh, you moved.
Yeah, I moved, yeah.
All right, so the NAC. The NAC is the Non-Criminal Agency Coordinator. They are going to be the main person that BCI deals with regarding anything that has to do with this process. They are initially named on that agency agreement, but if that happens to change, which it will, Appendix J on the launch pad can be submitted. It's just a change form. There's an address portion, a NAC portion. If something else changes, you only have to submit what is being changed. You don't have to fill out the whole thing again. But I do need to know who that new NAC is, because it's important to have that main contact information. They are also responsible to make sure that we receive the authorized personnel list. That is Appendix K on the Launchpad. They would be the privacy and security coordinator. They will do, they will ensure basically everything is done. So the two types of training, the internal training and the security awareness training, they would coordinate and ensure that those are completed by all the people on the personnel list. They will make sure that all of the people on the personnel list have signed the statements of misuse, and would be in charge of completing the audits. Now, I'm not saying this person actually has to do every single one of these things. They're responsible for these things. So they can delegate that somebody else adds people to the CGIS training and delete people from the CGIS training. Somebody else can receive the results. The criminal history division would need to know who that person is and make sure. But when it comes down to who we are going to communicate with and who is going to complete the audit or answer to the audit, that is going to be the NAC. Yep, good. Yep. So if you do change, if this person changes, again, the email is bciaudits@nd.gov. You can fax the form, mail the form, but please do it as soon as possible so that the process doesn't get delayed for anybody. So the authorized personnel list is anybody that will have anything to do with CRY. As simple as I can state it. If you are the person receiving it, if you are the person that is going to be discussing, so you're the school admin, but you discuss it with the superintendent needs to be on that list. Anybody that's going to be part of, if you have somebody else that destroys the CRY for you, they need to be on that list. Basically anybody who will have any physical, logical, or verbal communication or dealings with CRY needs to be on this list. They will also be the people that need to take the training, which we'll talk about in a little bit. As that personnel list change, people leave, positions change, you would just simply submit a new form to us. You also need to maintain a copy for your records because it will be part of the audit process. And
I did get a mess or a question this week after our last week's training about how they submit it. And I know on the slides, it says it must be submitted on the agency letterhead. It doesn't have to be pretty, right? It just needs to be the name and.
yeah, most agencies do have their own letterhead, like so
Yeah.
school. Yep, it's just basically a list.
Yeah.
Like it says, your letterhead, these are the people that are authorized. It doesn't have to be secretary, NAC. It just said like Tiffany, Bob, John, Amy are all authorized personnel. Sign superintendent.
I have a question.
Sure.
How often should we review our authorized personnel list?
Reviewing it necessarily, like it could be the same for 20 years if it's the same. You would review it anytime personnel changes.
And I did put in, based on last week's questions, that it is recommended you probably should put some eyes on it annually because things do change, especially in schools. People are coming and going. So the individual I spoke with last week, she goes, I never created that list. So I said, it's likely out of date then. And
well, it's audited. So, I mean, if you want to look at it annually, but I'm going to look at it
exactly
once every 3 years. So, I mean, if you want them looking at it annually, but I'm going to audit it once every 3 years. So.
Other question?
Sure.
How do we review / retain a copy of our list?
Um,
Does that mean?
I'm not,
submit electronically?
I mean, I guess if you want a hard copy, you'd put it in your file. If you have it electronically, it's a list of names that, I guess I'm not sure how to answer that. I mean, reviewing it is just making sure that the people that are on that list, it gets less complicated once you realize you have to take this training. So those just have to match. It's basically a list that I have that I can make sure that people have completed the training, which we'll get into. So however you guys want to store it electronically, hard copy, I don't know if you have a better way to put that. I don't
No.
know how to say, like, put eyes on it. Like, you just have to have a list that says who are the authorized personnel and make sure that the people that are on that list are the people that are authorized.
And if you don't know where this list is because someone might have created it before your time, just create
Create a
a
new
new
one.
one, yes. And then save it on, in your files.
However, like,
Yes.
I would keep like an audit file, because like there's a statement of misuse that needs to be signed by everybody. Where is that being stored? Your user agreement, keep it with that. Like all of those things, I don't maybe make an audit file. Like people are out there are way more organized than I am, but that's how I guess I would do it. I would put criminal history audit information and have my authorized personnel, the statements of misuse, the user agreement, and your your training guide that we'll go over. All of this I would keep in one general area that you can open and review, because like I said, I will be looking all of that during an audit.
One thing I wanted to follow up with, Jeannie, that was addressed in the last session was the janitor. It doesn't, and if they should also be taking this training. Can you?
Well, I'm not to the training yet, but
Oh, on the authorized personnel list, I mean.
yeah. So anybody that has any access to CRY should be on this list. So if you keep CRY in a cabinet in the main room, but it's not locked with, like the janitor might have a key to that area, then that person should also be on the authorized list and take the training that's coming up. So anybody, you might have somebody that receives it. If you guys receive this through email and then you like delete, like you're gonna have way fewer people than, but if you're printing it off and storing it and those things, then where is that being secured and who has access to that and who is being involved in the decision making all need to be on there. So down to the simplest little,
There also might only be one individual on there, which is the NAP.
there can be. Oh,
So I also have a question on that. So we do have
Okay.
janitors come into the medical marijuana office, but we have
Mhm.
all of our CHRI documents locked at the end of
Yep.
the day in a cabinet, so they don't need to do training then?
no, as long as they don't have access to that cabinet. Yep.
Perfect. We have the keys hidden in like a secondary location.
Okay, yep, then they wouldn't need to. Nope,
All right, perfect. Thank you.
you bet. So the privacy and security, that's basically what we're talking about. They are going to make sure that CRY is secure and safe. So it being locked in a cabinet, somebody needs to be responsible for that. They're going to ensure the authorized personnel have received the training. They're going to update and maintain the training document, which is available on the Launchpad. They have the two types of training. There's internal, which is your policies and procedures, and then this online CJIS security awareness training. The statements of misuse are located on the Launchpad. Every individual who has access to CRY needs to sign this statement of misuse. That needs to be signed once ever, unless you guys in your policy want it signed annually. You guys can do that. That's up to you. It could be part of the training, part of the whatever, but it has to be signed at least one time. And that's just making sure that they know and understand that the misuse of CRY has consequences. And then they have to make sure that your agency has your policies and procedures relating to access, use, handling, dissemination, and destruction of CRY. Okay, authorized personnel training. There's the CJIS online training, which we talk about a million times throughout this training because, because it is absolutely 100% required to receive CRY. We can keep track of it online. Anybody on that list, everybody that's on that list has to take this training. It's located at www.cjisonline.com. The NAC would be responsible for setting up and removing people according to their access and making sure that those trainings are completed. And then it needs to be documented on the Appendix M, which is on the launch pad. Again, you would retain this for the audit. Trainings must be conducted annually, and unfortunately, sad face, this training does not count. Okay, so here's the acknowledgement statement of misuse. It's Appendix I. Oh, yeah, this is one of the, did this person do this during training? You don't need to send me these. You don't need to, every time you get a new person, make sure that I get this or know that this is done. I just kind of review them during an audit. The big thing about this is it's basically stating that if you misuse CRY, you know, tell your cousin, tell your friend, you saw these results. There are consequences such as dismissal from a position or up to criminal charges. The audits. Once within a 3-year cycle, every agency will be audited. The FBI comes also once in a 3-year period to audit us so that we make sure we're making sure everybody's doing everything correctly. The NAC would be the one who's going to be responsible for this audit. I basically send out, it's a questionnaire. I receive it. If there's a lot of issues, we go back and forth, but we don't want anybody getting in trouble. It's not, we're trying to trip people up or anything. We just want to make sure everybody's on the same page with making sure everybody's doing everything the same and properly. And the NAC would be responsible for that. Okay, any questions about like what we've gone over so far? Sweet, crickets, okay. Privacy security. So the access, use, handling, dissemination, and destruction of CRY are governed by federal and state, local regulations and policies. You as the agency are responsible for maintaining the control and confidentiality of this CRY. CRY can only be used for the specific purpose in which it was requested, and that goes back to that authorization. So when they're saying your insurance department and you have 2 types of, well, let's just say Department of Health and Human Services, like they have about 50 different people they can run them on. If they run it for foster care, they can't turn around and then use it to cover their adoption purpose. Like they have to be used for what it was specifically run for. In the state of North Dakota, we do not allow outsourcing, which means that you guys cannot go hire a company to do this for you. It has to be done by the agency. Okay. Policies and procedures for CRY. You as an agency need to have policies and procedures for each of these areas. The access, use, handling, communication. So that's, are you emailing it? Are you talking about it? Are you, one person's making the decision, and that's fine. Secondary dissemination. Are these individual slides again? Like, are there individual slides for each?
Oh, no.
No, okay. So secondary dissemination, that is if you as the agency run a criminal history on a person, they then want that criminal history, and you allow them to take it, that would be considered secondary dissemination. And you have to document that. You do not have to let them do that. But if you do let them do that, you have to document that there is secondary dissemination. You have to have a policy about the prevention of unauthorized disclosure. Letting it leak, not locking it up, or how are you keeping it confidential? What are your agency's specific consequences for the misuse? How you're going to store it? The physical security, is the room locked? Is the drawer locked? How, if you're storing it online, is the area that you're storing it password protected? Is it encrypted? All of those need to be in the policy. Retention, you as your agency are allowed to retain this for as long as you possibly want, but in North Dakota, it's required 3 years. So you have to keep it for 3 years. Again, you guys can decide when it is. I usually say audit to audit, but if you want to do 3 years from the date that you run it, that's up to you guys, but it has to be maintained for 3 years. How is it destroyed? Is it shredded, double shredded? Is it incinerated? Delete, degaussing. I said this in the last training. Don't take it to your local bonfire. That is not acceptable. I say that because somebody actually did that. Now, here's a big one. The applicant has the right to challenge their record. So your agency has to have in your policies and procedures what the acceptable time frame is. There is no steadfast rule, but it has to be quote unquote a reasonable amount of time before you can completely dismiss. So if you're basing the hiring or not hiring on their specific record and they challenge that the record is wrong, you have to allow them time to do that. And that is part of the applicant rights and notifications that their fingerprints are going to be used to run a criminal history, and that they have the right to challenge that. This is kind of a big one. Are there any questions for these policies? I know we don't specifically have templates or general idea, but if you have questions about, is our policy good? Is there, to like reach out kind of to another type of agency that they might be able to share some of theirs, but Renee?
Oh, question from Mallory. For retention, is it 3 years from when the results were received?
That's up to your policy. So it can be 3 years being audit to audit. So if I audit you in August and you want to get rid of everything the following August, you can, or you want to do 3 years from the date they were hired plus the end of the fiscal year, that's up to you guys. However you want to, it just has to be 3 years. I mean, is it from the date that they ran it? No, I would probably say audit to audit more so, like, if that's, is that answering it, Mallory?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, okay.
Hey, so I have a question.
Sure.
Just quick regarding how an employee could like contest and say that that wasn't on their record.
Sure.
So like let's say, you know, it comes back as something that would disqualify them from being able to be like employed by us.
Okay.
Is there something that they need to provide, or if they just say, oh, that's not accurate, is that enough, or like is there something specific that they would
Well,
need to provide us?
That's going to be in your policies of what you want
Okay.
specifically. But if they're going to come to you and say, hey, I'm going to challenge this record, then you have to say, okay, you have a week. And basically they're going to contact us to see the record. They're going to have to provide us with a bunch of stuff to change their record.
Okay.
And then they would probably ask you to us to send you another one, like the updated version. We would send you that new one that oh, this was in fact not them, it was not correct, it was not whatever. We would send you the new one and then you could decide whether they are hired or not. But it's up to you guys what you want. Like if they say, you say, oh no, here's my court document that says, then that's up to you guys.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yep. Okay, applicant identification. So, you guys should have a process for your agency, and again, it's totally up to you guys on how you are going to ensure that the applicant that you want being fingerprinted is in fact the person that goes to get fingerprinted. I want, most people are like, what? Like, no, it happens. Like, especially with people that have criminal histories, they send in their brother, their cousin, or whatever. So we recommend that you use a verification form. A copy of the form can be found, and the process can be found at the Compact Council website listed on the slide. This is going to be a document that you give the applicant. They hand it to the person that's fingerprinting them. The person fingerprinting fills it out, signs it, that they did in fact check a state ID, a passport. You can require 2 forms of identification if you want. This is totally up to you guys. It's not an auditing thing, but it's for your safety to make sure that those results that you're getting are actually based off the fingerprints of the person that you are running the fingerprints for. There is an example online on our Launchpad. So the protection of the fingerprint card. Some agencies do their own printing. Some people send them to professionals, sheriff's office, whatever. You guys can have a policy, or should have some sort of policy, that says when those fingerprint cards come back to us, they need to be in a sealed envelope, or you can come up with your own sort of scenario if you want, but that they do not have a way to tamper with the cards. Again, this is not auditable, but some agencies send an envelope, a sealed envelope, some require signature across the seal of the envelope to show like that it wasn't pre-opened, or again, this is totally up to you guys, but you guys can have a policy to state that your fingerprints need to come in a certain way.
You don't have to also have, and I mean, it's highly recommended.
Right. It's not auditable. It's for your guys' protection. It's not something we require. Here's an example of the form. If anybody wants to look at that.
And we will put these, I think one's from DHHS and another is from the Board of Chiropractic. We will get these added or uploaded to the CGIS Launchpad just so that you guys can have a template.
There is the FBI one online, but this is like a local.
Yep.
Local.
Exactly.
And you guys can create your own. This is totally you if you want to do this or not. You don't have to. I mean, you can require way more. It's up to you guys, but there's the other one. Okay. Applicant review of CRY. The agency may discuss contents with the applicant. This is going back to basically an applicant has a right to see their record, but they don't necessarily have to take it, or you don't have to allow them to take it with them. So you can show them their record, they can ask about it, you can discuss it. But if you don't want to give them a copy of the record, which you have every right to not, you can send them to us and we can help them get a copy of their record, or help them get the FBI one, because we can't provide them with an FBI record. They would have to go through the FBI to get that. And it's $15 if they want to come get a copy from us, and it's $18 if they want to send in prints and get their federal record.
And they would send those directly to the FBI one.
Yep. This is the challenge of their criminal history. So if the applicant wants to challenge the record, you have to allow them the opportunity to challenge their record if they feel it's inaccurate or incomplete, which, I mean, sometimes when they run it, something isn't complete yet, and maybe by the time you guys are reviewing it, it is complete. I mean, sometimes these things happen much quicker than we're capable of updating. I mean, if they want their North Dakota criminal record, they would contact us. If they want their federal one, and they can still contact us to get the information on how to do that, we can, but it would be directly through the FBI with that. Okay, big one, communication of CRY. CRY is not considered public. So you get these results, you're entrusted with confidential information. The most important thing that people need to understand is that a not record, like nothing being found, is also a record. So you can't even communicate somebody who is not authorized to know that they don't have a record. That is communicating their record. You can't go through somebody's drawer and say like, oh, I want to see what Tiffany had on her record. Like, you shouldn't be eavesdropping if you're not part of the conversation. Even, I would even say, if you're an authorized person and two people are discussing something, if you're not part of the conversation, treat it as such. Don't go to the local bar and talk to your best friend Tiffany about so-and-so didn't know they did this 10 years ago before they moved to Piedmont. But transmission of CRY needs to be encrypted if you're going to email it. I know like some schools, like they have like a main HR place, and then they let the principals decide. They'll email those. You can do that as long as they're authorized, and that email is encrypted. So we send these things to you encrypted, but you need to encrypt them moving forward. They're not just automatically encrypted. And if you're going to disseminate them, you can only give it to the actual applicant. Like nobody else can come in and get somebody else's record because they wanted to see it. And then that would need to be logged. Misuse of CRY. So under 1260-1610 is the criminal. I think you have it over here. States that any willful violation is defined in section 12.1-2.2 of any provision of these sections 1260-16 through 16.9 relating to the reporting and disseminating criminal record missing. You're contagious. Criminal history record information is a class A misdemeanor. So it is actually criminal to misuse CRY. So sharing it with people that you're not supposed to be sharing, talking about it, looking it up when you're not supposed to be looking it up. And then you can also, on top of like that being, you guys can have employee misconduct policies. Are they going to lose their job? Do they lose access? That's up to you guys. We at BCI could actually also take away your access to CRY if there's a lot of misconduct being found. Okay, that was a lot. Any questions so far? None, okay. I don't know if is it worth going through the section 1 recap?
Yep.
Being that
They can't see anything.
okay. What is the specific authority under which your agency receives CRY? I bet there's not an easy way for me to answer.
Yeah.
Is what I'm saying.
Oh, just put your, either, put your response in the chat.
Is anybody responding?
Mm-mm.
Okay.
Not yet.
Well, we'll just move on. Okay. 1260-24, North Dakota Century Code 1260-24 and Public Law 92544.
Not very good.
Okay.
Oh.
Now we're on the same page. What does CRY stand for? And go. If you don't know the answer, that's okay. I don't either.
Kelsey got it.
Okay, criminal history record information.
Oh, yeah, I got a bunch of responses.
Yeah, okay.
Good job.
I know in your training you say record check information.
Yeah.
But I guess we've always just called it record information. But is CRY public information? True or false? CRY is public information. We'll start a poll. Who says true? No, it's not. It's false. I can't see the responses, so I'm. Where is property and financial data found on a background check or a criminal history record check? Background check. What type of checklists if an individual is a sex offender in the state? CHRC. Okay.
Yep.
How often does the user agreement need to be completed? This is kind of a long answer if you're going to type it. So upon implementation and when there's changes to the purpose. What are the two things required to conduct a fingerprint-based record check? Ooh, authority and purpose. Yay, Kelsey. Who must every agency entity designate to assist with communication from BCI, information changes, and training? Nick. Who might the authorized personnel list contain?
Let's go through each one of them and
That-
yay or nay.
Okay, how about the IT personnel? Your IT personnel. Yes. Human resource personnel. Yes. Administrative staff that have access to CRY. Thumbs up all around. The janitor. Now, I would say yes and no to all of these people if they have access to CRY. So yes, all of these people, if they have access to CRY. No, none of these people, if they don't. And the NAC. That's pretty much the only one that absolutely is required to be to be on that list. All right. Rebecca, it's break time.
So requesting a criminal history record check. So the record check process takes place solely between the agent, or excuse me, takes place between the agency and BCI. North Dakota BCI is the sole provider of CRY to the FBI. So your agency can't directly reach out to the FBI. It would have to come through our office. In this process, an agency needs to submit a packet to BCI. That packet includes the criminal history record check form, the fingerprints, and the applicable payment. So this is a point in time check, and which means it is as of the date of the response. So if Jeannie kind of alluded to this earlier, if the subject were to get arrested and fingerprinted around the time that the record check was completed, the arrest charge may not show up on the response. So right here, sorry. Let's see what else. So the response is emailed via secured mail to the agency's designated point of contact. And this is done after the agency obviously sends in their submission packet. We run the record request, and then that designated point of contact receives the response. That designated point of contact is determined by your agency. This individual must be on that authorized personnel list and then have taken any necessary trainings, which is that privacy and security training. BCI does prefer that agencies designate one individual to send in and receive these criminal record check requests and responses. If you have special circumstances and you might need to designate a couple people, then please just contact me and we will figure something out. So the use of criminal history results is limited to the sole purpose outlined in the agency's statutory authorization to submit fingerprints, meaning the applicant or you can't use the results for another position within or outside of your agency. So for example, an employee was a custodian at the school. 6 months later, they moved to another school district. So in that time or during that time, a brand new record check application, prints, and payment would need to be submitted by the new school for that individual to BCI. So Jeannie, how about if an individual is moving within the organization? So maybe they were a teacher and they moved up to be the superintendent. Would they need to do another record check?
That would be on them.
Okay, that's
We don't state who has to, who should, who is required to. We run them if they want. So if that school or whatever wants to run a new one, that is totally up to them.
So check your internal policies, basically. And then the agency reviews the actual criminal history and makes a suitability. Let me say that again. The agency is the one that determines whether to hire the individual, not BCI. So let's kind of talk a little bit about each of the pieces of information that needs to be submitted to our office, the submission packet. So within each request, there needs to be the form, fingerprints, and payment. Let's talk about the two types of forms. So there is a form specifically for schools. This is SFN 58617. And then all other 126024 authorized agencies should be using SFN 60688. Both of these forms can be found on the AG's website. The best way to find them is there's a search box up in the top right corner. Type in the SFN number and it should pop up on the screen.
They're on the launch pad.
And yes, they are on the CJIS launch pad as well. So these forms do get updated occasionally. We will send out an email informing you all of the changes. And then, so please use the most recent form. The date is at the top. I think it's right under that SFN number. For the most, I did send out an update last week. This is a pretty minor change. So it's unlike the one that was sent out in January, where we were updating or December, excuse me, where we were updating the fees. This one, like I said, we just added for clarification, it's under the subjects information. It's the second line down where we stated, so the first line is the last name, first name, middle name. The second line, just to be more clear, these are any additional names. So that was the change that was implemented. And we just, if you can get that new form updated within the next couple months, that is fine. We will still continue to accept the 1224 form and the new one. So, and then just as a reminder, if this form is bookmarked or saved to your desktop, just please make sure to update this. Okay. When you do receive an incomplete submission packet and memo, we ask that you promptly make the required changes. Wait, this might have gotten moved. Well, either way, this is our incomplete CHR request when there are
issues with the submission packet. This is the memo that our staff will send to your agency, prompting them to make any required changes or submit any particular information. Okay, so this is the CHR form for schools. I'm going to walk through kind of line by line what these requirements are and what you need to be putting in each of the areas, the designated areas. So let me just see here. Okay, so at the top, it just gives you some instruction about how to complete the form, make sure it's legible, and that it is completed fully. If you need to submit it, or when you submit it, there's the mailing address and the physical address. We want these forms, when you mail them, please mail them to the PO box address, correct? Yeah. So that's going to get us, we find that that gets to our office quicker. You would need to submit the 2 fingerprint cards along with when they are inked. You will need to submit the 2 fingerprint cards, and we ask this because there's generally one card that's better than the other. So it gives us options when submitting to the FBI. So you would need to submit that fingerprint card along with the application and the payment. Okay. All right, so the top section is to completed by the school. This is pretty self-explanatory. The only things I wanted to call out, for each school, you have your own county number and district number, so you will need to have those put in the appropriate fields. The ORI, that is the originating agency identifier, and all schools have the same ORI. All other agencies have a specific ORI. So with schools, that one is already pre-populated. Comments are miscellaneous. This is generally when we see comments put in here, it's because there may be an error on the fingerprint card where maybe they transpose the number with their date of birth or something. And so they'll just write, there'll be a comment written in the comments box letting us know, like, date of birth is wrong, it should be this. So then the next section is for fees. Most of you would be submitting for the North Dakota and the FBI check, which is on the bottom left-hand side. This is $40. However, sometimes you only want the FBI. So you would just select the appropriate checkbox when submitting the request. The process control number. This was new to the form in December. This number is assigned for all digital prints when digital prints are taken and the equipment or the live scan unit is connected to BCI, has been approved by BCI, there is a process control number assigned to those digital fingerprints. This is that number that would be put on this form. It will also be found if the tech were to print out those fingerprints. This PCN number would also be on the top right corner of those fingerprints. If you're looking on the live scan machine, I believe it's called tracking number and not a PCN. So the number always will start with a 048. It's 12 digits. And again, this only applies if your agency or your school or agency for that matter takes digital fingerprints. Let's see. And then the reason fingerprinted, as Jeannie talked about earlier, this box needs to have the authority, which is the 1260-24, and then the public law 92-544. In addition, it also has to have the purpose.
So if you, for this particular form, it's for schools. If it's for the superintendent, you would put superintendent. If it's for a teacher, you would put teacher, bus driver, and so on. Any questions with that top portion? The right-hand side, just to go back, for the fees, schools are the only ones allowed to submit for volunteers. It's not saying that agencies or other entities have volunteers. It's just schools. The FBI has authorized schools to submit, to be able to submit for volunteers, which is a $38 fee, correct, for the North Dakota and the FBI check.
Yep.
And then the bottom part of this form is to completed by the subject of the record check. This is the individual's identifying information, their name, any aliases, which can be previous last names, maiden names, former names, their date of birth, social security number, current address. They then would also, they would sign at the bottom. This signature can be in ink, it can be hand or typed, it can be electronic. We will accept them all. And then in addition, it needs to be dated. One thing we did want to note that all the language at the bottom basically is authorizing us and the FBI to run these checks. So we don't need an additional authorization form. We do have that, but that is meant for the public request form. So the next form is the 60688. This is for all other 126024 agencies. These are the same exact forms. The only difference is there is no county or district number at the top portion for the agency to complete. And that's one thing I should probably clarify. You guys all do these forms already, but the agency completes the top portion, the subject of the record request completes the bottom, they sign, and then they submit it back to the agency. Sometimes we receive the form directly from the individual, and in those cases, we always return it to the individual and inform them that they need to send it. The agency needs to submit that information to our office. Okay. So the FBI applicant privacy rights notification. This, all these notifications are already built into the CHR request form for BCI. It is located on the back side of our CHR forms. So basically what these notifications mean are the applicant must be notified in writing that the fingerprints will be used to check the criminal history records of the FBI. They must be informed they are allowed to challenge the accuracy of the record. The agency must provide the applicant a reasonable period of time to challenge. The agency should establish and document what constitutes a reasonable period of time and any appeals process. And then finally, the applicant must be notified how to obtain a copy of their FBI record. All right, who pays for a criminal history record check? So law defines who pays for CHR checks. This is usually found in your agency's specific section of the North Dakota Century Code. We accept only US currency. And then the types of payment allowed. Personal check, cashier's, agency check, or money orders are accepted. Checks may come from the applicant or the agency, depending on, again, what law defines. Some agencies have asked their applicants make checks payable to them, and then they provide one check to BCI. It just is cleaner for the agency. This is totally acceptable and up to your agency or entity if you want to do that.
Can I interrupt for a second?
Yep,
We have a question regarding the form,
Yep.
the miscellaneous comment section. Linda Castillo from, Williston. Question regarding the comment miscellaneous section. Can we use this section when an applicant notifies us that they are going to be married in 2 days and they will be changing their last name? Or would you like us to complete the form so BCI can have all potential names?
they would need to complete the form with all potential names at that time. So they're married, the individual is going to be married in 2
Mhm,
days. They
mhm.
know their name.
Mm-hmm.
They probably should be filling it out.
Or if we receive it, you know, like on a Friday and they're getting married Saturday and we see that, should we just wait until Monday to process it when their name has actually officially been changed?
It would probably be, to put a note.
I would wait to send in the
You're
form
right.
if it's that
It
close.
is, yeah.
Okay.
It's not a steadfast rule, but I mean, if it's that close and you're filling out the form now
Yes.
and you know you're getting married in 2 days, I would wait to even submit the form.
Yep.
Until the 2 days are up,
So, but it is a good,
only
Um,
because some things might happen.
Right,
that,
yeah,
you know,
exactly.
yeah.
and they could decide maybe they don't want to change it, you know,
Mhm.
and we can't run it on a name that isn't an actual name.
Right.
So I would wait to submit the form, but
And then even if we don't do the name that it's going to be, because it's based on the other 3 pieces of information, the date of birth, social security number, and the fingerprints.
Right.
Then,
Yeah, just, and that's a great point. If you know of that situation, yeah, putting that information in the comment box, and then our CHR specialist will just put that off to the side and then run that following week with all known names. Does that answer the question? Okay, perfect. One thing I did want to mention, for any checks, money orders that are submitted to our office, please to make those checks out to the North Dakota Attorney General. If they are made out to BCI, or do we usually return those?
they'll accept if they're to BCI.
Yeah.
They will accept them, especially if it's a money order.
Okay.
But yeah.
But please, the preference is the North Dakota Attorney General. So for some agencies that receive checks, some of them have requested that we remove the sentence, please make checks payable to the Attorney General's office, because it just confuses their applicants. So instead of making the check out to the specific agency, they're making it out to the North Dakota Attorney General, and it just causes more delays for that agency or that individual. So I ask that you please don't update our form, but in this particular circumstance, I am willing to make a modification to our current form to take off that sentence. So if your agency would like that form, please let me know and I will send that out to you. It's not a special SFN number or anything. It's a revised form for the 60688. IDB, so interdepartmental billing. This is only for agencies that are in PeopleSoft. An IDB memo is sent out with each request after the requests are processed, and it basically just gives you the date, the agency name, the ORI, and then the individuals we ran the criminal history record requests on. At the bottom, we will also put how much it is. So this just gives you that documentation. So at the end of the month, you can be like, okay, we ran X amount of requests. This is how much we should be getting billed. So for IDB, what we do is we bill for the previous month. So it usually comes out that first week, and then we bill for any previous month's requests that were ran. So ACH payment. Thank you to all that provided feedback on that survey. We are continuing to work on this option. We will let your NAC know or your designated point of contact know when it is available. We would require agencies or schools interested to complete an ACH form, providing us with any banking information. We will get that set up in our system. And so it would kind of follow the same process as IDB, where we would bill for the first week for all previous months' requests. You'll get a memo with each response, marking or noting all the different, or the names that were ran on and the total that was processed or will be processed. So if none of these payment options work, we do ask that you contact our office and we will work with you to figure something out. As for credit card payments, it's not an option at this time. However, it is on our radar, and we are continuing to look into this more and how it would affect our processes and our systems. So just, hold tight. Not an option now, but hopefully down the road. So, and then on the right side of the, on this slide, it just talks about the different breakdowns for costs for criminal history record checks. North Dakota only is $15 per applicant. Fingerprints are not required when doing a North Dakota check, a North Dakota only check. However, when you are doing the FBI check, we obviously require those fingerprints. So the cost for the FBI only is $25, $23 for volunteers. And then with North Dakota and FBI together, it is $40 per applicant or $38 for volunteers. So just for a reference, this is the IDB memo that I talked about. Like I said, it has all the agency's information, and then the background checks were done on the following people. And then finally the amount that will be deducted from your agency's account. Was there a question? Okay. Moving on, we are going to talk about fingerprint submissions. This is the third piece of that submission packet. So in the non-criminal justice agency record check process, the agency has a legal authorization to submit applicant fingerprint cards to BCI. So the information in this section is intended to assist agencies in applicant identification and the protection of the fingerprint card. And actually, Jeannie kind of talked about a lot of those already, but mostly I will be talking about how to properly complete and submit the fingerprint cards and then interpreting the results. So information on how to take fingerprints, poor quality versus good quality, and then some of the common issues will be discussed later in the presentation by Paul. Okay, where to be fingerprinted. So here are some options where applicants can be fingerprinted. So there are no certifications to fingerprint an individual. So if you feel comfortable, you've taken some training, whether it's from our office or someone else, you can take fingerprints for your agency. For those agencies that have live scans, you can take your fingerprints. Sometimes there are other agencies that may reach out and ask to get fingerprinted. You would just need to be mindful and change the ORI and some of that information, agency information, when inputting, when going through the fingerprint card process and typing in all the information. So your agency, another state agency, the local or state fingerprints, local or state fingerprint service, and then finally law enforcement agencies are some of the different places to be fingerprinted. One thing that we've heard about recently or had concerns about is the availability of fingerprinting services, especially in the Bismarck-Mandan area. So I have done some checking into this. We are looking at BCI, that is, looking at getting a portable device to fingerprint 126024 agencies. It's not available at this time. We are waiting for some grant funding to purchase this item. But when that time does come, we will be opening up this option on a appointment only basis. So, and the individual, the applicant would need to call our office. We would schedule a time. It would likely be a couple days out of the week, depending on how to a little Donald Trump.
Listening to the president.
Yes, yes. Okay. So here is our fingerprint card. Either agency personnel or the applicant can fill out this card. But it is the agency's responsibility to review the information on the card for accuracy and completion and verify it with the applicant's identification. So you would want to, request their license or some other form of their passport to confirm that they are who they say they are. If the agency fills out the card, the applicant should review the card for accuracy before they sign it. Any errors or missing information and information that is placed in the wrong fields needs to be reviewed, verified, and then completed prior to processing or updated.
I have a question regarding the fingerprint verification
Yep.
form. It says, do we create the policy for retention of the fingerprint verification form?
Yep.
Assuming the recommendation would be from audit to audit of those forms.
It would be completely up to your agency. It doesn't need to be retained. It's not an auditable thing. So if you want to keep it, that's up to you completely. So we don't need it.
So back to the fingerprint card. All the shaded bullets on the screen are required on the applicant fingerprint card. I'm going to see. It goes, our non-criminal justice agency guide does go into detail a lot more about all these areas. So I recommend reviewing that if you have questions and are completing this card. But basically we have the name, which is done by last name, first name, middle. Any aliases, the signature of the technician needs to be there if it is an inked card. We have the ORI, and that always starts with the North Dakota 92, correct? Yeah, North Dakota 92, and then ends with a Z. We have date of birth of the subject, the demographics for the subject. So with these demographics, we get a lot of questions on these, especially when it comes to eyes, hair color. B and B are not acceptable. We don't know if that means black, brown, blue. And so within our non-criminal justice agency guide, we do offer the breakout of the different codes. Yes, thank you, Jeannie. And so please reference that when you are filling out this form and you are unsure. Let's see. Social Security number is of the applicant is required. And then on the left-hand side of the form, we have, like I said, the individual, the technician, that needs to be signed if it's an ink card. The resident of the person fingerprinted, their address. No. Yeah. Is that what that says? I'm sorry, I can't read it. Resident, yep, resident. And then we have the date it was fingerprinted, the signature of the applicant, and then the address of the agency or entity, and then the purpose. So this is, and the authority. So the purpose and authority, along with the ORI, must be on both the fingerprint card and the application.
the CHR application. So if this is not, if it's on one and not the other, we at BCI will fill that in, but we will inform you to please, for future requests, to make sure that these are on both. And it's the same. Like I said before, it would be the 126024 and then the public law 92544, and then the purpose of why they are getting having their fingerprints taken. So in this particular case, it's the school bus driver.
And one clarification, the social security number is actually not required. We really strongly encourage it.
Yes.
But in some cases, some agencies have Canadian residents that are applying for certain licensures and they may not have a social security number. So in that case, we would use the name, date of birth, and the fingerprints as the 3 identifiers that are required.
Yes. Yes. So that is, yes, as Renee did say, we do need those 3 identifiers and that is the name, date of birth, and social security number generally, but in certain cases, the fingerprints can be used in lieu of that additional identifier. So the next 2 slides show the differences between the types of fingerprint submissions we receive at BCI. The first one is the ink rolled. The next slide will be the digital live scan. So with the ink rolled prints, the information will be handwritten, usually by the applicant. If something is left blank, as I said, you want to be as thorough as possible, and you will need to make sure that all information as the agency, you will need to make sure that that's filled in. 2 fingerprint cards are required because we will submit the better of the 2 to the FBI. We want to be able to send the prints with the most detail so the FBI can accurately check their prints on file. If the prints are not clear, then we will get a rejection, and we'll talk about that later. So it's important to make sure 2 sets of prints are submitted when they are inked. Remember that for all inked cards, a physical signature is required by the technician and the applicant. So the digital live scan fingerprint card. I talked a little bit about this regarding the main difference is that these are digital. The live scan will take the fingerprints. It will be uploaded on the screen. A PCN number will be provided. As you can see, that's in the upper right-hand corner of this fingerprint card. So most live scan sites, which right now we have a handful of schools and DHHS, and there may be a couple other agencies, but those are the 2 that come to mind right now that have their own live scans. Most law enforcement also have live scans, but for agencies and that have live scans, a fingerprint acknowledgement form should print out if you have a printer attached. This can be submitted to our office in lieu of the fingerprints, so you don't have to actually print out the fingerprint card. And basically what that fingerprint acknowledgement form looks like is this. It will state the name of the individual, the PCN number, the agency's ORI, the date printed, the reason fingerprinted. The reason fingerprinted, I believe, on all fingerprint acknowledgement forms just says employment. So you will need to make sure that on the application, it's the actual reason, specifically or especially for if it's been designated in century code. So for school bus driver, teacher, for the Board of Medicine, it may be physicians or genetic counselors. So you just need to make sure that that reason is stated on the application.
I got a question on that. You just said if they have that form, they do not need to print the fingerprint cards in. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yep. And then they just need to make sure, you need to make sure that that PCN number is also on the application.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Yep.
I should say if they were printed in North Dakota.
Oh, yes, this only applies to, well, there's gonna be no, so outside of North Dakota, there's a lot of you that obviously have outside candidates coming in and needing to be fingerprinted. We do not, our systems do not communicate with outside entities for our digital devices. So the only way those outside individuals can be fingerprinted is they can be fingerprinted, digital, or inked, but they need to be mailed in to our office. There is no other way to get them to us. Correct? Okay.
I'll stay here.
Yeah, if it's out of state. Okay, so here are some fingerprint card reminders. Both the applicant and the official taking prints must always sign the inked fingerprint card. Include the requested information on both the fingerprint card and the CHRC form. We do not require signatures when fingerprints are taken digitally via live scan. We just find there's no way to do this. We have talked about this, but there is no way for someone to physically or to sign, excuse me, the digital version. So if you are doing digital prints, these, and then only providing that PCN number or that fingerprint acknowledgement form, we don't require a technician's signature or the applicant's signature. The number in the corner for digital prints is called the tracking number or the PCN process control number. If a PCN is included on the CHR form, a physical card is not required. We're trying to make it as seamless, easy for you guys. Live scan sites should provide a live scan fingerprint acknowledgement form, which can be submitted with or in lieu of the fingerprint card. That said, agencies should always be prepared to print and mail a physical card if we're unable to retrieve that data or if the prints are rejected. If the digital card is ever printed on site, even with a PCN provided on the form, it's just best practice to have both the applicant and taker sign the card if you're going to submit them to us. It's just, again, not going to be denied, but it's best practice. Fingerprints should be less than a year old, and if fingerprints were taken for one reason, they cannot be used for a different reason. We cannot stress this enough. Ordering fingerprint cards. So schools can contact BCI for fingerprint cards. We've had requests for 50 or more. We have boxes of them, so don't be shy if you do need fingerprint cards. All other agencies can order fingerprint cards from the FBI's website for no charge. You'd have to go to the www.fbi.gov. The applicant fingerprint card is FD 258, and you can request that your ORI is printed on the cards. It's not required, but it does make it a lot easier. And then there are 2,000 cards per box.
Question on an ORI.
Yep.
It says, does and or can an ORI change for an agency at any time?
No. If an agency may have more than one ORI, and that's only the case for DHHS, but once an agency has obtained an ORI, that is the ORI they should be using. And yeah.
I would actually say like the ORI is actually assigned to the purpose.
The purpose, exactly.
So it's not actually the agency. So if an agency changes like who they're running, like
purpose.
So well, I mean, so like let's say Board of Nursing doesn't exist anymore and now Board of Medicine takes on nursing, that ORI could potentially travel with running them on the nurses
Okay.
because it's actually assigned to that purpose. But because of the way we do our things, we put it under an agency in our century code versus putting who they're run on in century code. So the agencies or I would not change unless they either get a new or don't process those anymore, because it actually goes with the purpose.
So short answer is no. All right, when agencies and schools are submitting their criminal history record packet, they can mail or email to the BCI addresses listed. The only ones that are allowed to email us the requests and the fingerprints are the ones that participate in IDB at this time. Though they also, the ones that participate in IDB, they also need to have digital fingerprints. So if your agency participates in IDB, they have a live scan or have that capability to have their applicants take their fingerprints by a live scan, then we would be, all those requests could come to our BCI record request email. So if you have any additional questions on that, just contact our office. Most of you that have the capability are already doing that. So it makes the process much smoother. It's a hope down the road that we can get the majority of you emailing the request. It just makes the turnaround process a lot quicker, and then things aren't getting lost in the mail, which we all know happens. All right, section 2 recap. What needs to be included in the submission packet to BCI for a record request?
This form paying the fingerprints.
Right.
Kelsey.
We need the form, the payment, and the fingerprints. What is the cost of the state and federal record check? $40. All checks or money orders to BCI should be payable to whom? The North Dakota Attorney General, correct. Who must sign the fingerprint card when inked? Applicant and tech. That is correct. So all digital fingerprint units are connected to BCI. True or false? That is correct. It is false. Okay, we are back to now discuss the results for CRY. So BCI is the state's central repository for CRY. It's a system that compiles records of arrests and prosecutions of individuals or of individual offenders for use by law enforcement, the courts, and the public. So CRY is submitted to BCI by local law enforcement agencies, state attorneys, the courts, parole and probation, etc. When an adult is arrested for a reportable crime, the individual's fingerprinted by the arresting law enforcement agency. Fingerprints are used to establish the identity of an individual, as I said before. If an individual is arrested on 2 separate occasions and uses a different name each time, the fingerprints will link the individual to both arrests. That is one thing, and maybe I think I touch on it later, but fingerprints, as I just said, whether they make up a name or a different date of birth, when we submit them to the FBI, they hit on or they review the fingerprints. not necessarily the information provided, the demographics and things like that. So if an individual gave a different name or the name was misspelled or whatever, if they have fingerprints in the system, any name associated with that, those fingerprints will come back. So again, I'll talk a little bit about it more, I think, later in the presentation, but so I just wanted to clarify that. So
People lie, fingerprints don't.
that is very true. I don't know if you heard, but people lie, fingerprints don't. So the arrest fingerprint card is the beginning of the criminal history record. It includes information about the arrest charge and demographic information of the person who was arrested. So what is a reportable crime? State law requires local law enforcement agencies to report arrest information about certain offenses to North Dakota BCI. And these offenses are all contained in 1260-16.4. Just as these are, I shared this slide earlier, but these are the types. This is the type of information you will see on a criminal history record, a North Dakota criminal history record, to be specific. That includes convictions, regardless of how old, charges that were dismissed, jail or prison custody records, any other reportable events. Agencies that are covered by 1260-24 receive the full criminal history record of arrest and prosecution, or their rap sheet, or the individual's rap sheet. There is nothing that is redacted when we provide you with that response. So what is not included in a North Dakota criminal history record check? Juvenile records, unless the juvenile was prosecuted as an adult. Federal records, records from other states, travel records, most traffic offenses, civil judgments, and credit history. So here is the North Dakota response. When you've requested a record check be done on an individual and there is no record on that individual, your agency or entity will receive this memo or letter from our office. Basically, it's just saying the individual that you are inquiring about does not have a record. No, just as a point, just a note, the social security number will not be released on this form or ever shared when there is no record. So what does it look like when there is a record found? These next few slides will show what that is. Are there any questions on how to read the North Dakota response when a record is found? I know that up at the top, the highlighted section, it states that single state offenders, these individuals only have a record in North Dakota. Multi-state offenders, this will show if they have records in other states or if they are a sex offender. Here are the demographics of a subject of the request. Now we're getting into the arrest cycle. If at any point in time you ever have questions with the response when there is a record found and you're unsure what it means, please contact our office and we'd be happy to walk you through that particular that information. So the response to your record check may also include a registered offender letter, notifying you that the individual check is a registered offender in the state of North Dakota. Any member of the public may visit the sex offender website. So there's two websites. There's the sex offender website, and then there's the Offenders Against Children website. Both these links will be included in that letter.
So FBI responses to requests. So North Dakota is responsible for submitting searches, or requests to the FBI. All FBI record searches are fingerprint based. And then finally, the FBI record may not contain all state criminal history information. And this includes non-sufficient fund check offenses or custody information. And as I said before, the subject's information should be accurate on that fingerprint card, but in the event it is not, the results are fingerprint based, so it won't change the results if you see something after the fact on the card that needs to be changed, like a name or date of birth. So here is an FBI response when there is no hits or identifying information found in their system. Basically, the agency's name will be on the form, and then there will be a note basically saying that no information has been found. When there are fingerprints found, this is what that rap sheet will look like. It will have the applicant's identifying information, that their demographics at the top, and then we'll get into their arrest record. At the bottom of the request for each FBI response, the name may not match, but the FBI makes their matches based on fingerprints only, as I've said before, and then this record may only be used for the purpose requested. So those are the two notes at the bottom of the response. At times, the FBI will reject fingerprints, generally for poor quality. This is the type of message you will receive from our office when that happens. You will also receive a FBI or a FBI fingerprint rejection letter, providing you with further instructions on how to obtain an FBI response. So when fingerprints are rejected, agencies are allowed to submit a second set of fingerprints at no charge. These should be brand new prints and not a print out of the prior prints. It will just be a waste of time and they will get rejected again. So they need to be brand new prints. And these second set of prints can be done via live digital or inked, but they must be mailed to us. So please keep that in mind. So after every 2 FBI rejections, so the first rejection, your agency has paid the, what is it, $25 or the $40 if you're doing the North Dakota and the FBI. If that is rejected, BCI you're allowed to provide us a new set of prints and we will submit them at no charge. But after every 2 FBI rejections, if that second set was also rejected, the agency may have the option to conduct a name search. They may also submit a third set of fingerprints if they would like, but there will be charges associated with that third set of fingerprints. What are they again? It's cheaper, right? The third set of fingerprints, or
It's $10
It's
as
10
opposed to 25.
so it's $10 for that third set of prints if you submit them to our office and not the full 25. So when they do, when our office does a name search, submits the individual's demographic information from the previous submissions to the FBI, name search requests must be submitted within 90 days of the second rejection. And then response times do vary. Generally, they are quick. Lately, they've been quick, but we've also seen them take weeks. I think that was primarily during COVID. So,
And previous to that.
and
yeah.
previous to that. So usually you should receive a response within a couple days. And then this is when we do that name search, this is the form that our office will complete and submit to the FBI.
Then you may want to mention you can only do a name search if candidates were found.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
So what Renee just reminded me of, a name search can only be done when, so if you've done the first and the second submission to the FBI of the fingerprints, and sometimes there will be no information found, but when there is a descriptor on the form that we provide you from the FBI that says, what was it?
Candidates were found.
Candidates were found, that's when you can do the name search. So candidates must be found for you to do that name search. And then it has to be after 2 FBI rejections of the fingerprints for you to also do that name search.
Correct me if I'm wrong, the form that you send them to say it's been rejected doesn't there say you may run?
Yes.
Yes.
Our
So-
form, the
yes.
BCI form,
So
yeah.
like,
That
we will let you know
yes.
under the circumstance, like if you're able to run one, the form that you would get would reflect that you are now able to run.
Yeah, there's
Yeah,
different
senior
checks, different check boxes.
Just so
for
they're
each
not sitting there
option.
thinking they
Yeah,
have to
for
keep
each
track
option.
of like,
Yeah.
but like our office will tell you
Correct.
when you can.
Yes, and so I just pulled up the fingerprint rejection letter form again, and as Jeannie said, that we will guide you along the process. We will inform you, okay, what your next steps are. So don't be alarmed when you do get a rejection. We will walk you through that process on next steps. Okay. So agency inspection questions. These are just a list of questions that are good to ask yourself, especially after today's information has been provided to you. You can take these back and to your agency and determine what, if you're familiar with the question. So for instance, list all the categories of applicants included in the authority under which your agency requests and receives CRY. So this would be generally in 126024. It would be defined in 126024 who you can run these record checks on. And then in addition, it will also be in your specific section of code. So what is your agency's ORI? This is that identifying number that is provided by the FBI. We will provide that to you once the FBI has assigned that. That number, that ORI starts with an ND9 and or ND92 and ends with a Z.
Do you have time to go back to a question?
Yep.
Regarding the results, it says, would tribal result records show on the FBI record, but not on the state results? Or how do we obtain those records, if any, if there are any?
Tribal or not on either, you would have to contact the tribe or potentially BIA. Bureau of Indian Affairs. All right, we throw a lot of acronyms around here, but
So another question to ask yourself is, does your agency have a quality assurance process for verifying the identity of the applicant at the time of fingerprinting? This is what Jeannie was talking about earlier. Do you require that they show driver's license, passport to confirm who they say they are? And it's not just some other friend or family member coming in to get fingerprinted. What is your process for reviewing the fingerprint cards prior to submitting them to BCI? So this, are the prints legible? Are all the required is all the demographic information on the card? Is it signed? Does the reason fingerprinted box have both the authority and purpose listed?
And then finally, what is the purpose or what is the process when fingerprints are rejected? After 2 rejections, does your agency request a name search? So every agency is different. So you would need to refer to your internal policies to determine how many requests you will do before you are complete. I know, was it Board of Nursing? They do 4 submissions of fingerprints. That's generally not the case for agencies or schools. But again, you will need to check your internal policies to determine what what you need to do when that happens. All right, I'm gonna turn it back over to Jeannie, and she's gonna provide a short present or some information on audits and the compliance review.
Thank you. Okay. Yep. Okay, so there are 2 different types of audits. The first one is a routine audit, and that is me basically coming out once every, or most of the time it's done online, but sometimes I will come out if necessary. They're conducted, each agency will be audited once within a 3-year span. So an audit cycle is 3 years. BCI, me, do one, and then the FBI comes out once in a 3-year cycle as well. They will go around and audit different agencies. I will try to be there when possible, but the thing to note about those is that the FBI is actually auditing us through you. So they're making sure that we are doing everything possible to make sure you're doing everything possible and proper. You will be notified in advance that an audit is coming. The questionnaire comes from it's a peak performance. If I don't hear back, sometimes it goes to spam, but if I don't hear back or it doesn't start, I do reach out again and say, I don't know if you've got this, but look for it and then complete it. The next one is a directed audit. These do not happen very often. They're basically somebody alleges something or lets us know that an agency is not doing things properly or misusing the information. Then I would specifically come out and audit everything that needs to be audited to make sure that you are, in fact, being compliant. The direct audit does not replace the triennial audit. It is for a specific purpose. When you are completing the audit, the things that are going to be covered is basically what I covered in the beginning. So we have to make sure there's a user agreement, that we have the authorized personnel list, that the NAC is up to date and current, correct. I will review all your policies and procedures for the use, handling, dissemination, and instruction of CRY, and to make sure that you've done your CJIS online training and your annual policy and procedures trainings. Any questions on audits? Sweet.
I think you got it? Okay. All right. I just wanted to just talk a little bit about the legislative process. Now, all of your agencies are already authorized to conduct those fingerprint-based record checks, but in the event you want to change your purpose, you will need to go through a very similar process as if you were starting fresh. For instance, an example is Board of Medicine. They have been authorized to conduct fingerprint-based record checks on a few categories, physicians and a few others, but they recently, during this past legislative session, requested to also do fingerprints on genetic counselors and naturopathic.
Yeah, homeopathic.
Yeah, homeopathic or naturopathic doctors. So anyway, they were required to come back to our legislative body and request that their section of code and 1260-24 be updated. So before that process,
we ask that your agency comes to BCI or contacts me. And so that I can review the language and just provide any feedback that you may want to include or remove based on feedback that we've received from the FBI. We don't have any manuals or real guidance on what is acceptable and what is not for language. We're just basing it off of what has been approved. So I can tell you for a fact that all the new sections or the agencies that are requesting authorization in 126024, they need to reference their specific section of code. That's not always been the case when you look at agencies that have been approved for some time. So if you ever were to, for those agencies, if you were to update your section of code, we would need to, let me clarify, would need to update some of that language to reflect the new practices that the FBI wants to see. So if, as I said, I would love that you reach out to our office. We would review that language, provide you any feedback. We are not the final say, but we can, again, provide you with that feedback and in hopes that the legislative body will approve, which is usually not the problem. Our North Dakota state legislature is usually not the problem when it comes to approving those background checks for your agency, the state and the national ones. It's the FBI. So once the language has been codified or it doesn't even have, once it's been approved by our legislative body, I will take that information, that bill, along with some other information that the FBI requires, and submit it to them for a review. Now, this review can take 2 months. It could take a year plus. We have seen all kinds of turnaround times. I am hopeful, based on some of our recent responses, that they're a little bit more timely in their responses. So that I believe every agency that had changes during this past legislative session should have heard from us or received an ORI or the necessary information to start conducting those fingerprint-based background checks. So again, I will stress, please provide me with any draft language you have prior to submitting the bill. And then you move forward with that process. We remain neutral during the legislative session. We will likely sit in during the times when you testify in the event that there are questions. But again, we remain neutral. It will go through that process. We will submit that to the FBI, wait for that review. We will continue to communicate throughout that time, just so that you are not left hanging. Once we have received a response from the FBI, I will contact your designated point of contact, or NAC, and provide you with any information on what we need to do to move forward. If you already have an ORI, that won't change. There might just be some minor things we have to do on the backside with some of our systems, but the process is generally a lot smoother when you are modifying language opposed to starting fresh. So that's all I have for that. Are there any questions on the legislative process? All right, so we are getting close to the end. All right, so all BCI, the initial access training. A lot of your agencies likely had this training with one of our staff members, likely Carrie Crine. But all new agencies are required to have at least one individual attend the initial access BCI training. This is not required for any existing agencies, but it is highly recommended for agencies experiencing turnover. This training today is that. It is basically just, it's the same information that is provided during that initial access training. So this training does not take the place of agency internal training, meaning those policies, procedures, the discussion of the misuse form and the consequences for that, all that stuff, that does not take the place of that training or the CJIS online certification or the training. So obtaining assistance from BCI. So each agency is designated as a CHR staff member for all requests and responses. If you don't know who your contact is, please just reach out to us. But your agency will be notified if your point of contact is out for an extended period of time. Likely an alternate CHR staff member will handle your agency's request, so to keep them moving. The audit and compliance team are available to address any questions related to the audit process or compliance requirements, and then contact me or with questions related to the CHR process. All right, here are some more agency inspection questions. I think there's a few pages of them. These are great questions to take back to your agency and just check, confirm, like, do we have this in place? Do we need to get this in place? Here are some resources that we can use to take care of this. So please, when you receive the presentation, make sure you go through them and determine what areas you are in need of updating, or maybe you have everything in place, and kudos to you.
Question?
Yep.
Who should questions about CJIS online go to?
Me, Jeannie.
All right, here are some helpful resources that we've talked about throughout the day. Links, the Attorney General's website, 126020, North Dakota Century Code 126024, the CJIS Launchpad, where we referenced where a lot of these resources and appendices are at, the CJIS Online website. This is where your NAC would sign up and then add or update your authorized personnel. This is where they would also find the link in addition to the CJIS Launchpad for that security training, correct?
Where
The CJIS online.
no, CJIS Online is just for training.
For just, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
you can't get to the Launchpad from CJIS, but
No,
you can
no.
get from CJIS.
The launch,
You can get CJIS Online from the Launchpad, but you can't get to the Launchpad from CJIS Online.
that is correct, yes.
Is that what you're asking?
Yes, yes. And then if you are needing to order fingerprint cards, that is the direct link to do that. And if you have an applicant that would like to do their own personal FBI check, that is the link provided at the bottom.
Can I just say one thing about the fingerprint cards?
Yep.
You had mentioned that they come 2,000 in a box.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't need 2,000 and you put like 50 in that line, they will send you 50 cards,
Okay,
not 50 boxes.
okay,
So they have it worked out somehow that if you put like a 1 or a 2, they're going to send you the 2,000. If you put like 50 or 100, they'll just send you 100 cards.
okay.
Just so people don't think they have to order
2,000, yeah, okay. Here is our contact information. Mine is at the top. Jessie Kershaw is our fingerprint supervisor or ABIS supervisor. She was unable to be here today, but if you do have questions on arrests, there's her contact information. And then finally, we have Jeannie Vetter's information, the BCI audits email, and then the phone number.
Is my phone number corrected?
It is.
Okay.
All right, this concludes our criminal history record check process portion of the training. Are there any questions before we move into our fingerprint basics section?
One question. Is the practice to continue to email results to the designated agency contact Is there an ability to post the results in a secured location, such as in a secured location in the launch pad?
Not at this time. We need those responses to go specifically to an individual, not a generic email, or
Or like a Dropbox.
a Dropbox. It's audited. It's audited at some point when Jeannie goes out and determines, okay, are you guys following the processes? Is the individual that is authorized, are the individuals that are authorized only receiving that information? If you submit it to a launch pad or a shared site, multiple people can potentially access that. So.
Okay, next question. Can you describe in detail the deletion of the electronic result emails from your agency? So I'm
Again,
thinking he means,
like
When-
how do
when
they
it-
delete them?
should they delete
Yeah.
them once they receive the responses?
So the email, it's delete and delete. So you have to delete the email and then you have to delete it from your deletes. If you're storing it electronically, there's a whole nother like degaussing. You have to degauss it like 3 times and stuff like that. But delete. And then check with your internal IT to make sure they don't have another housed server storing area. Cause like I know NDIT stores even our emails if we're deleting them. They would have to be deleted from there as well.
Any other questions?
Okay.
All right.
Wait,
Oh, under the wire.
where would we get guidance for electronic storage compliance?
It's actually in what's called the CJIS security policy, but in general, it's the security that matters. So you can store it online. You can store it in a Dropbox, a shared location, as long as it's encrypted, password protected, and the access to said security is limited to as few people as necessary.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, so I think to save time and to get you out of here on time, we are just gonna jump into the fingerprints basics section. We have Paul Geisberg here to conduct that training. If we do apologize for changing this training from in-person to online. So if you were wanting to get some instruction on how to fingerprint, inked or live scan, we are more than happy to work with you. So just contact our office and we will get something set up.
So I'm just going to cover a little bit about the basics, why we fingerprint. So here we have a couple pictures. Big one for our agency is just security, just as far as making sure we're keeping accurate records. And then our second image here just kind of shows clarity a little bit, making sure that we're taking good quality, recognizable prints. Our second slide here, going to be our applicant's right waiver. Again, we kind of talked about that earlier, but just making sure that we're handing that out each time. It lets your people know what they're being fingerprinted for, their access to that information as well, how they can access that. Our basics of fingerprinting. So basically, as you're looking at fingerprints, as you're classifying them, your fingerprints are going to be made up of a series of ridges, which are kind of your black detail. And those images and your values are going to be those white areas in between. They all have unique characteristics. Even twins, stuff like that. Fingerprints are going to be similar, but they're going to be uniquely identifiable. Again, they don't change over time. The majority people are going to have some things that might affect, whether it be scarring, skin disease, stuff like that. aging, different careers might affect people's fingerprints as well, and they're systematically classified. As we're going along here, so here's basically what we're looking for. In your rolled images, they're going to be pretty square and boxy looking, but the majority of our images are loops, as you can see. This is just breaking down the general fingerprint classifications. There are some outside of this as well, but this is the majority of what we see. In that first one, the loop, we're kind of looking for the core, which is kind of your central recurving ridge that's going in from the left side, you can see, and then it exits that same way. And then your delta, which is kind of that point of divergence. Whorls, as you can see, are just going to be kind of like a spiral. And then you're going to have two deltas, one on each side. And then arches don't have any deltas, but they just kind of more or less like waves going through. This kind of breaks down what we were talking about here earlier. The characteristics here. So as you can see, stuff is pretty detailed, but we're looking for minutia points to analyze as we're classifying fingerprints. So scoot ahead here, but this is what we're looking for as we're classifying fingerprints. So you can see there's different characteristics we're looking for. In general, the FBI says on each one of these fingerprints, there's about 1,500 minutia points we're trying to analyze. So that's why we're taking again, good quality prints, but also just rolled images that gives us the maximum amount of detail we can to accurately classify people. Okay, now we talked about this earlier too, but on your applicant fingerprint card, make sure you're completely filling out that information. Like we talked about, the social security number is not necessarily required, but we like to have it in there. Again, it's another positive form of identification. But yeah, just completely filling out the card helps us out. As you're taking fingerprints, whether you're taking ink fingerprints or live scan, make sure you're working with clean subjects, so you have to wash hands, that kind of stuff, dry them off. Live scan, it's pulling the moisture from their sweat pores, so you're going to deal with maybe dry hands, moist hands, that kind of stuff. So be cautious of maybe having baby wipes, something like that for dry hands, and then maybe patting them dry before you're taking prints, or if they're too moist, you may have to dry them off before taking prints to avoid some of that smearing, smudging, that kind of stuff. The FBI recommends, if you guys have adjustable stations, generally it should be at about a 90-degree angle for the person you're taking prints. It usually works a lot better from experience if you have them, the individual you're taking prints on, look away, so they don't try to assist, so they don't try to help. It just kind of becomes muscle memory, but just have them look away is usually what I found in my experience to work best. As we're starting here at the bottom, on your fingerprint card, so your planes or your slaps, those impressions, they're going to take it simultaneously. So here in the right side of the slide there, you see the right slaps. Again, those are all taken simultaneously. As much of the fingers as you can get in there, we take those at a 45-degree angle, both the right and the left. So obviously the left is going to be pointing in the other way. And then your thumb slaps as well. But this is just going to be moderate pressure. We're not rolling these images. And that's that. As we moved into our rolled images, so those top two lines of the fingerprints, we're going to roll. So from side to side, from your nail to nail, bubble that finger as a top, or that distal. You can see where your first line is, that crease in the image. I know it's might be a little small, but you can see from there up, we'd like to capture all that information. Smooth, moderate pressure, and then one continuous motion once you start, don't stop. Obviously, if you're using the live scan, you can go back and rescan any of those images when you're looking at them. And if you don't think that's going to be classifiable or you're questionable, it's probably better just to retake those if you need to. If you're taking ink fingerprints, there is correction tape that you can redo prints as well too if you're in concern that they're not quality images. So again, these rolled, we want them square and boxy. They should be filling up pretty much that whole entire box that you're seeing. We like to have them centered. So in this one, obviously, you can see the core and then your delta as well. It's a pretty complete image. Again, too, just be conscious of lifting up, trying to piece together images. We don't do that. So once you're done with that one, if you need to retake it, you can resubmit those. Okay, here's what a complete fingerprint card looks like from us from the fingerprint standpoint. Pretty clear, classifiable, and then everything's square and boxy, as you can see up in the top 2 rows. Issues that we run into. So again, just kind of being conscious of each person, they're unique that you're dealing with. So whether their hands are too moist, too dry, that's going to obviously be applicable to how much pressure you're going to apply to their hands as you're taking prints. So obviously if they got moist hands, you're probably going to apply a little less pressure. Otherwise, we're going to get images like we see here on the left. If you got dealing with dry fingers, stuff like that, you're going to get more of the images we see in the middle. And then just uneven distribution, just make sure you're maintaining that consistent pressure throughout. Kind of go through examples here as we're going forward, but these are primarily the issues that we see in submissions. So here, as you guys can see, kind of have a mismatch, hodgepodge of stuff. It looks like our first row, we can pretty clear, boxy stuff. It's classifiable. And then our second row and bottom, it looks like we're kind of all over the place. So just be mindful of what you're submitting, making sure that we're not overlapping fingerprints or, again, too, if you're using a live scan, making sure you're wiping down that platform each time so that we're getting clear, classifiable images. Okay, the second one here, again, just be mindful of the workflow, whether you're using ink prints or the live scan. You can see where it's going to annotate that in the bottom of your card here on the ink fingerprint cards, or on your live scan, it's going to take you down. There's an arrow, I believe, in the section that you're in is highlighted on the left, and it'll take you exactly where you're at. But just make sure that you're following along. Here we have an example of submission where you have 2 of the left slaps taken, and that was what was submitted to us. So this just looks like a big mess, but this is, again, kind of as we talked about, a result of not cleaning the live scan, wiping down the screen after each set of prints. So just make sure that you're doing that. Otherwise, it gets to be kind of a mess on our end. And this is our final one here. Again, looks like we're taking like sides of prints. The majority, I think, of the machines have a foot pedal, so just be mindful that if you need to do edits or go back and rescan stuff at the end, there's the availability to do that. If we're missing images here, you can see in the bottom left-hand corner, our left slaps and the right slaps are mostly cut off. And the live scan, that's trying to compare those images up to your old images. So you're gonna get quite a few errors on that. So just be mindful as you're going through the process. Again, you can always reach out to our agency too if you guys are in question on fingerprints or you need training on any of that stuff.
Completes our CHR training. Are there any questions before we end the call? All right. Well, thank you for joining us today. I hope this training helped you better. Oh, sorry.
Robin, Rebecca, thank you
Yeah.
again for allowing this team to jump in and for the time today. I do have a question, and I'm going to apologize if this was covered and I missed it. Is there any time and place that once somebody gets fingerprinted that they would be subscribed to us or the state And from that point on, if anything happens, we would get notification. In places I've been in other states, once somebody's subscribed to a district, if they get charged with anything or arrested within 24 hours, we would get a fax or an email letting us know that this person's been charged or arrested. And then we would be able to follow up and put them on the clock. And what I'm struggling with a little bit here is that once people are in and cleared, it seems like we have to rely on them self-reporting anything that's happened in or outside the state. And sometimes we find out about it and sometimes we don't. So do you feel like there's going to be a time and place where we as a state can get to having them subscribed and then it automatically allow us to know if they've been arrested for anything? Does that question make sense?
Yep, it sure does. So that is what you said you were, you came from another state, and what they likely had was the Rat Back program, and that is exactly what you explained. They, after an individual has been fingerprinted, and I believe they need to be in. Well, either way, after they are fingerprinted, if they were to get picked up, for instance, they had a wild weekend in Vegas and it was a teacher and they got in trouble, the local law enforcement would submit something to the system. I don't know exactly all the ins and outs of it, but
Yep, you're right.
They would submit something to the system, which would then inform that agency that this individual has some criminal activity on their record. And then it would be up to the agency to proceed how they see fit. The Rat Back program there's two parts to the Rat Back program. There's the criminal side and then the non-criminal justice side. So with the non-criminal justice side, legislative approval is required. And so what we are, and there's funding that is needed because we would need to update some of our systems as well. So what our thought is, because we've had many discussions on this, because we are all very supportive at BCI for this program and we would like to get it in place. But to start, we're gonna we're gonna implement the criminal justice side. And so that will just affect any parolees mostly, and we will document and see how that goes. And that information we feel we could take to our state legislative body and provide some history and some background information on the program and the benefits of it. And that will help get it hopefully passed. The second piece of that is funding. There's some systems, some of our systems need to be updated and be at a certain level. And to do that requires some funding. So we are, hopefully we're working on writing that into certain grant funds in the future. So it's a work in progress, to answer your question.
Okay, and I apologize, Rebecca, if that was already shared with everybody else. I just feel like that was something that in the best interest of kids was always a great safety net.
Yes.
And,
100%.
I shared with people here, I would go into the office literally every Monday morning and you would find a list of people that went out and got DUIs, the weekend before, or had a domestic abuse and you could put them on the clock or had something that could impact their employment.
Yes, and you are absolutely right. Some individuals are very forthcoming with that information and others will not say a thing. And so unless you do rechecks on an individual and it's designated, not that your agency is authorized to do rechecks on an individual, you wouldn't know. So your agency can definitely go out and check the North Dakota Courts website, but it's not going to be instant like the Rat Back program where you get notification.
Thank you so much. Appreciate
You're
your time
welcome.
today.
Yes, of course. Any other questions? All right, so like I said, I hope this training was beneficial and helped you better understand our process. if you have any questions from today or down the road, please don't hesitate to contact any one of us on the screen. We're more than happy to assist. All right. Well, thank you and have a great rest of your day.